hoses being blown off, no leaks, nothing like that. So.
Yeah, buddy.
Hey guys, Matt here. As you can see, I am standing next to our 2023 Raptor. We're up on ramps. Today we're going to install a factory location front mount intercooler upgrade for our friends over at COBB Tuning. Let's go unbox it. All right, so we have the factory location intercooler here from COBB. COBB has a couple of different flavors of front mount intercoolers for these trucks. Some are factory location, others are much larger. We are going to start with the factory location. It's a simple install. And if we find that that's not doing what we need it to do, as we continue to build out the truck, we'll swap it for the larger one. But just like the intake, they're using a bunch of sealed air product here, which is great for intercoolers because they are heavy. And we got a package here with the COBB badge, sticker, and 1 bolt and washer. So I'll look forward to seeing what that's for. We got the intercooler here. Let me close up the box. Give you a look. So that's it. Because it's a factory replacement, I wasn't expecting like a bunch of hardware and hoses. I think the factory one's gonna come off, this one's gonna go on, and that's it. So let me open this up and point out a couple of things before we bury it under the hood of the truck. All right, so there it is. This is really heavy, pretty heavy. The difference being a lot of factory intercoolers and radiators use a tube and fin heat exchanger, and this is bar and plate. So it's a series of bars, plates, and fins that are kind of sandwiched together. So the air is passing from one side to the other inside these bars, and then the fins here act as heat sinks to move heat out of that air.
It looks really nice.
Yeah, one thing to point out on intercoolers is a lot of people will get hung up on kind of like how they look on the outside. Like this is probably a sand casting and they've touched it up and it looks just fine. The inside, same deal, pretty good. What really sets intercoolers apart is the core. And so like COBB is obviously not the least expensive option, but the core, the design of the core and the quality of the core is what sets intercoolers apart from one another. So somebody may go and replicate this intercooler, but without actually replicating the fin density and the fin pitch internally and externally of this core, it may perform totally different. So this is, intercoolers are definitely a case where you need to be careful what you use. I used to design intercoolers, which is the reason I know a little bit about this. You could install an intercooler that just looks like this and works not even as well as factory. So part of what we're trying to do with the intercooler is on 1 pull or 2 pulls, often a factory intercooler will even outperform an aftermarket intercooler. That's because they flow really well, but they heat soak really quickly. So there's a lot more thermal mass here, a lot more ability to stay cold. So if you're running in the desert or on the street or whatever it is, and you're doing pull after pull after pull or long pulls, this is going to be able to maintain a lower charge temp than your factory intercooler once that one's toast. So that is the reason for the upgrade here. Again, nice looking part, nice coating on it. Let's get to installing it. So I'm getting out some of the tools that I've got a feeling I'm going to need. I think to remove the skid plate is a 13 and a 15 millimeter. There's gonna be some hose clamps on the intercooler, which is probably a 7 or a screwdriver. I'm gonna use my cordless impact on this. Possible, that's all I need. So I'm gonna start by taking off the skid plate here. Just start the timer. Oh, that's loud.
Nice.
It's also heavy, so don't drop it on yourself.
Is that the bottom of the intercooler right up there?
Right here.
Cool.
There's intercooler support here. The factory bypass valve on these new Fords, not even that new anymore, is electronic instead of vacuum actuated. And that's definitely gonna be attached here somewhere. I'm gonna disconnect the fan. The factory bypass valve is up here on the driver's side. Little wiring harness. Don't know if my hand is small enough for that. That may have to happen as it's coming down. There we go.
That sounded good.
All right, so I got those two done. I'm not gonna take this out yet because I don't want the weight of the intercooler to come down on me while I'm loosening these hose clamps. So that's gonna be my next step. Is it 7 millimeters? It is. Nice. You do have to use a socket. The way these clamps are oriented from the factory, a screwdriver wouldn't work. I'm gonna spin them around when I reinstall because I want them to be as serviceable as possible. All right, so there's one. I undid this hose clamp already. This one is right here. This one up here is the next one we got to do. And you can tell, like, when they assemble these trucks at the factory, they do it in a different order, obviously, than we're doing here. Because that hose clamp is up here, which I might be able to reach with a really long screwdriver from the top, but I'm going to try and slip my wrench up here and get it started enough so that I can spin it down and finish it. It's tight. I can get it on up there, but I can't get a turn in. One very small turn at a time. Good morning.
Oh, hello down there.
All right, so I got it loosened enough that I can. All right, so all three hoses, I think it's 2 inlet, 1 outlet over here, are released. We've got the 2 wiring harnesses disconnected. I just disconnected the hard hose up here from the bypass valve. So I think that I can undo the 2 15 millimeter bolts holding this up, and the whole thing will just drop out. A little push tree clip. These little where you slip and slice your hand open during the install. Pull, 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 pull. There we go. Nice.
All right.
Let's see if it was just one. Nope. Full of fucking water.
Oh, no.
As I washed it and I didn't dry it, the heat would have dried it off. All right, so the obvious differences between the two are construction, which we talked about earlier when we were unboxing the COBB intercooler, but also clearly the thickness of the core, the thickness of the overall intercooler. We still have the kind of the accessories, the peripherals on this factory intercooler. I'm sure the next step is going to be to swap them over to the COBB. But that thickness is something that needs to be accounted for in the truck. So the next step of the installation is that we're going to remove a duct or kind of a, they call it an adapter, a shroud, between the shutters and the intercooler so that we can make room for this additional thickness. It's clipped up top also, but I can't. Some intern at Ford had fun designing this.
Oh no, it'll stay locked on there, don't worry.
3 tabs is good, 9 is better. We're prying up on these tabs that you can see so that the whole thing can be slid out and away from the front of the truck. Hopefully those tabs don't exist on the top.
Oh god.
Because if they do, I'm gonna break them. Oh, they for sure exist on the top. I don't know if I have patience for that.
Yeah, we're good. All right.
I'm gonna move each of these rubber bumpers, bushings over. Back like that, I think.
And so that's the bypass valve?
This is the bypass valve. There's 1 bolt holding it here. Like traditionally a bypass valve or a blow-off valve, they're always actuated by vacuum, but Ford's doing it electronically. So 1 bolt and kind of a quarter turn. So I am going to, you can kind of see there's 2 little pegs in here, which is kind of a cool manufacturing challenge that they obviously overcame. And then this has a kind of a quarter turn feature here. So I'm gonna line up those pegs with this and then rotate that back into place. As I'm rotating it, it should seat down when we're aligned. Now this screw came out of the factory intercooler, and it's kind of a coarse thread, self-tapping type screw because it's going into plastic. So I'm going to put that back in there, and I'm certain this screw washer are what we're going to install here. 4mm. Nope. Oh wait, that was 3.5. Was 4. Ooh. All right, so this is a 4mm Allen. One thing is just make sure you're not gonna like strip this out. This is tapped aluminum. It's a small screw. It'd be really easy with an Allen key to put too much torque on that. So just snug is good there. The next thing we're gonna do is move these 3 couplers over to this intercooler here. These 2 are pretty straightforward with hose clamps, so I'll just do those quickly. And then this one's got kind of an interesting, like a retaining clip here that I'm gonna pull out. And then this probably is just gonna come right up. So that retaining clip fits in kind of these grooves here and was holding itself onto that lip. The same thing is gonna happen right here with this lip. Just like that. And then feed this wire back in. Rotate it until it snaps into place. There we go. Kind of cool how the factory hose clamps have these little retaining clips that keep the hose clamp at the right distance from the edge so that it's sealing around the bottom lip. That was always an issue when we were making intercoolers and hoses and stuff, is people would tighten the hose clamp down around the lip of the intercooler instead of below it. And it created leaks and you're pinching the hose the wrong way. Not good. Cool design. All right, I think I'm actually gonna take this plate off. Just getting a floor jack close by. 27-year-old Matt would have just lifted this up there confidently. 37-year-old Matt has dropped like this on his face enough to know that having a helping hand or a jack, which is more reliable than a friend, is a good decision. So I'm going to attempt to lift this up there. I'm going to grab that plate and have a bolt ready in my impact so that when I get things into place, I can get them started, and we'll be good to go.
All right.
I'll miss this shot if I drop this on my face.
I'm rolling.
All right, so I've got these like loosely in here, making sure that my clamps aren't getting like too pinched or anything. Everything's more or less in the right spot. I want to make sure the upper mounts go into their home. That kind of snug. Watch your lens.
You want me to? You got it.
Grab this plate, put it in there. Loosely put in these 2 15mm bolts. Just enough that it's not going to fall on me. I feel pretty good about that. Get the rest of these hoses seated. It's helpful to be able to kind of maneuver the intercooler around a little bit to try and get the hoses to seat. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes here probably fighting with hoses, getting these clamps where I want them and tighten them, and then we'll button it up. Hose clamps are also something that you don't need to like really crank down on. Bypass valve hose connector is kind of odd. It's like a 1/4 turn. I don't actually know how I disconnected it initially. It's some 1/4 turn bullshit. Get these 2 blue hoses reconnected. This one that was a pain in the ass. I'll work it a little differently. You know, a lot of these systems, when they build these trucks on the assembly line, they build the whole system and kind of drop it into place.
So it's not like they're installing the intercooler once all the rest of this is installed like we are.
Yeah.
We're careful with how they place things so that their techs can service them. Other times, you can just tell
Something's
nobody
never,
cares.
yeah, something's never supposed to come out.
Alright, so now, before I have fans in or anything, I'm going to reconnect this bypass valve harness, which is a little tight up here, and then we'll move on to the fan. So now I'm betting the next step is to suck this thing all the way up there. But I'm going to check the guide.
Alright, so I'm going to put the fans back on. They sit like this. So I'm glad I didn't just cinch the intercooler up, because this kind of has a lip that probably has to sit on top of the intercooler. So I'm going to try and sneak this in there. Sneak these onto that silver bracket, and then we'll suck the whole mount up.
Probably should have done this a step ago, because I'm not going to be able to fit. Oh, fuck, actually. Might be able to sneak this up there. If I can't, I'm going to remove this. Yeah, it's gonna be easier to do that.
All right.
Thick girl.
Oh, it's so close. It's that tubing right there.
That's just maggots. That was fun. But you had to let this drop to get that lip over the top. And there's just not as much, because this is so much thicker, there's not a lot of space. Back here, you'll see when you look, it's a nice tight fit. I'm going to plug this in before I forget.
Skid plates next.
Skid plates next. I've got the 4 13mm bolts up front. I'm going to get a few of those started, let it hang, do the rear support with that standoff bar, and then cinch them all up.
Barely even tell it's in there.
Go drive it, make sure we don't feel any weird stuff or whistles or anything like that, but it's pretty straightforward.
And no power gains until there's a tune, right?
It kind of depends on the conditions. Colder air is more dense, so the turbo doesn't have to work as hard to build the same amount of boost pressure. All right, so with that, the COBB front-mount intercooler factory location intercooler is installed. Pretty straightforward install. You saw us took about an hour, I think, with some of our starts and stops and working casually. So really straightforward installation. If you have a handful of the normal hand tools that you would need, it is helpful to have a friend. Other than that, really straightforward. I'm gonna go wash my hands up. We'll take it for a quick drive.
All right, just pulling out of Still River Drive. How do we feel?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, you know, I'm just daily driving-ish right now. More or less feels the same. I'm not looking for any performance gain right now. I really just want to make sure that my install is good and that everything is, like, working correctly. No hoses being blown off. No leaks, nothing like that, so. That's all we needed. We'll have the intercooler back out. I don't know if we'll need to take it all the way out or not to put in this Turbo Smart bypass valve, and then we'll go and do the same kind of thing. So
Good. Well, feels good. What a fun truck. What a great part. Shout out to
Wonderful.
COBB. Cool.
Yes, COBB makes it easy. Like I said in the intake video, they've been doing this kind of stuff for long enough that they just know what makes things nice for a customer. So
Sweet. Cool.
that was great. I wouldn't hesitate to do that upgrade. And the install was so easy. Like the bigger front mount, which I have a feeling we'll do at some point, is the performance is there.
but the install is so much more involved. Like a couple of people that are not used to wrenching on a truck could definitely do this on a Saturday afternoon with a couple of beers. So
Yeah, this wasn't bad.
good upgrade.
Cool. All right, that's a wrap.
Yeah.